Okay, let's get it. Let's go.
Okay, I'd like to call to order this meeting. This meeting, the city council meeting is adjourned. I can't remember if I said that. So, all right. We're now going to call to order the Cunningham Town Board meeting. It's Wednesday, August 12th, 2020. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu?
Here.
Ms. Lout?
Here.
Ms. Hersey?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Mr. Colebrook?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mayor Marlin?
Here. Next up is approval of minutes from the previous meeting of July 13th, 2020.
I'll make a motion to approve them. The minutes.
I'll second it.
Moved by Dennis, seconded by Bill Colebrook. Are there any corrections? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu?
Yes.
Ms. Lout?
Yes.
Ms. Hersey?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Colebrook?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
That motion passes. Are there any additions to the agenda? None. Public participation. Does anyone wish to address the Cunningham Town Board? Oh, Alan Axelrod.
Hi, thank you, Diane. I appreciate you recognizing me for the Cunningham Township's public comment. I wanted to do a public safety announcement first as a wake-up call. Had I not been very busy with some other things, it's unfortunate to say, but Ameren would have shut people's utilities off starting yesterday. They had sent out a letter in July, followed by a tweet to me that stated that they would shut off utilities on August 11th. We know from an Ameren, Missouri employee, as well as the Ameren, Missouri website, that on August 3rd, they had actually resumed their normal procedures, which included shutoffs. In response to the first notice from Ameren, we organized the No Ameren Shutoffs campaign, over a dozen different grassroots organizations, and we had gotten the Illinois Commerce Commission to push back the utility shutoff moratorium a scant 3 weeks, but that's enough for now. And this caught, for example, the Citizens Utility Board so off guard that they didn't comment at anything regarding to their actions or advocacy in their press release about it. They just said breaking news. This was us. There was no Chicago-based organization doing this. This was Central and Southern Illinois. So September 1st is now the new shutoff deadline, and that is what we're fighting against. To keep people's electricity and gas on during the pandemic. But unfortunately, it's not just electricity and gas. Illinois American Water sent out an email this past Thursday or Friday, stating in very indirect language that they intend to start shutting off people's water in September. They didn't say specifically September 1st, but it's best to be prepared. It's likely September 1st when they intend to resume water shutoffs in a pandemic when washing one's hands is crucial for public safety. The subsidies available for these programs are grossly insufficient. Ameren only offers $500 for the first 16,000 families that get access to their program. Similarly, the LIHEAP subsidy, even though supplemented by the state, for some people is a scant $900 for the entire LIHEAP season. That is the low income home energy assistance program. The season runs through May. $900 barely covers people's financial backlog. By contrast, Illinois American Water generously provided $200 assistance. This is a public health crisis, and we need to have some sort of response that is prepared and that is loud. For people that want to act on this issue, call the Illinois Commerce Commission at 1-800-524-0795. So again, 1-800-524-0795. File an informal complaint. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alan. Okay. Moving on to committee to verify bills.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So this past month we had $68,678.13 in the town fund and expenditures, and we had $73,365.10 in the general assistance fund. The total for the month was $142,043.23 in expenditures. I'll just note that there were 145 participants. That's the highest we've had since I became supervisor, although my predecessor started at 175. 66 of the 145 are currently homeless. And our community work program remains closed as we work out safety protocols with Salt and Light. We did have 0 rental assistance this past month, down from 11 the month before. That was highly unusual and probably has to do with the traffic jam of cases in our office. It's also the case that folks have to pay down their difference before we will pay the assistance. So we are the last payer, and we're definitely seeing folks who are not able to pay off their arrears, and therefore they're not able to get assistance. In addition, people who do not have income do not qualify under our program, but those, and that includes all the folks laid off under COVID, but we have been referring them to the IDHS program that is open currently. I'm happy to answer any questions you all have about the bills.
Mary Alice?
So there's a charge here for Scott Winters under administration. I'm not familiar with that name. Scott Winter, sorry. Is that a new employee? It's under administrative services. It was billed to the BC Bank credit card.
Yeah, it was most likely, yeah. Look under salaries. I think Wayne is currently, did Wayne join us? I believe this is the assessors.
It looks like this person's from California.
Scott Winter.
Paid through PayPal.
Mm-hmm. Wait, are you familiar with this? I'd have to look and see how it was classed.
What page, Mary Alice?
So
Page
the
7.
Was this one of mine?
Yep, Scott Winter,
Scott.
Administrative Services.
Yeah, that was training. That was, he did a Zoom training on,
so, but it's charged under administrative services. Should it be charged under training?
yes.
Yeah, usually our HR support goes under administrative services, and things that are training would go under training. So we can look at the classification of that.
I'm just curious, how many did the whole staff attend?
No,
No?
no.
Is this because he's a new employee?
I'm sorry?
I said, is it because he's a new employee?
No, Scott Winter is the person that trained us.
Oh,
It was me and William who attended.
okay. And I have a question about William. God bless him.
Sure.
Did he go to Chicago?
He's still here.
Oh, okay. Last I heard, I think was it William that was going to Chicago?
Mm-hmm.
But he's not going.
So he also has he's still here, working on an hourly basis, but he also has other employment. He's working remotely for the Cook County Board of Review.
Okay.
Does he work full-time, Wayne?
I'm sorry.
Does he work full-time for Township?
So it's hourly. So some weeks, yeah, he will be full time, and other weeks he's not.
And he's still helping you with the assessment of properties?
Yes.
Any other questions on the town fund?
When Wayne, how many more properties are there still left to be assessed? Do you know? I mean, I know you don't know off the top of your head, but estimate?
Well, I mean, we have approximately 11,000 property in Cunningham Township. I mean, they need to be valued every single year. So I mean, I don't really. Every year, all 11,000 properties have to be valued. So we're constantly.
4-year thing.
I'm sorry.
I thought it was a every 4-year thing.
Every 4 years, we're supposed to reassess.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there still needs to be a value in between the 4 years. So we're constantly looking at properties. We're constantly adding properties due to new construction or demolitions. We're subtracting properties.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a continuous process. There's no, I mean, we're not going to run out of things to assess.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments on the GA fund?
Well, I did want to ask Danielle, because you were talking about the rental assistance, and the fact, and there was none, but also, and I've asked you this question before regarding like our homeless population. Do you find, or do you suspect that maybe that our homeless population continues to seem, it doesn't seem to ever go down? Is this an issue regarding that we are in a twin city and that some of our homeless are actually Champaign based, and but they come over to Urbana to partake of the assistance?
Yeah, this is a good question, and it's one I've spoken with Andy Kornstrom, who's the supervisor of the city of Champaign Township.
Mm-hmm.
We have an agreement because of the drifting population that Andy serves anyone who's homeless where we can't verify. We only serve folks with an Urbana address or they are homeless, and there's no Urbana address that we won't send checks to Champaign, for example, or Rantoul. But if they're homeless, so they're staying at an emergency shelter, whether it's domestic violence shelter or See You at Home, etc., not transitional shelters, but emergency shelters, Andy serves those who are disabled, regardless of where they're drifting.
Mm-hmm.
And I serve the folks who are temporarily unemployed through our community work program. So we kind of divided it up that way. So if they have an active SSI case or an appeal, or they get one, we transfer folks to City of Champaign or refer them. And I just did a pretty high number of transfers this summer. I don't know why, but we probably ended up transferring about 12 to 15 people to City of Champaign Township this summer, because once we got their paperwork or they initiated applications for Social Security, then we would transfer them over, or we would just simply refer them if they walk in the front door and they already have an application. So yes, I understand that issue, and we try to really, we've told folks, you know, if they're homeless, they need to have an address in Urbana, or we do homeless verification, and that has to be with a homeless service agency that verifies their homeless status.
Okay. Have these people been counted in the census as well?
Well, so I'm so glad you asked, because one of the projects we have right now is helping people get their stimulus funds. And we recently teamed up. I reached out to Wendy in the clerk's office, RPC, and YMCA. And so while we're having booths both at Salt and Light and See You at Home, we also have census counters. For every hour that we're doing stimulus check support, we're making sure folks get counted through those agencies. I also had the city staff come during our last check pickup before the pandemic. We had 50 homeless residents, and they came in, they picked up their check, went to the next room, got counted, then went out the door. So everyone who got their check, and of course we didn't force them, I think there was one person who refused, everyone else went ahead and got counted. We plan to do this again in September. I am extremely concerned with the census situation, and Township will do everything that we can to make sure our homeless residents are counted. So like I said, every 4 days a week for the next 3 weeks, we're helping people get counted outside See You at Home and Salt and Light, and we can also help people get their check, because what we found out in our survey is that a very small portion of the people we serve had received their stimulus check. We surveyed them in May and June. So I think it helps to have both together. Come get your check, make sure you get counted. We got 2 signs up. So we'll do everything we can to make sure people get counted.
Is that a volunteer opportunity, Danielle?
I would say the volunteer opportunity is to work through the clerk's office or YMCA.
Okay.
So we have our portion staffed, but we are partnering and making sure that, you know, we're doing it at the same time. We just are not census counters. We weren't funded for that.
I was talking about the census, yeah. Okay.
Absolutely, yep.
Great.
And the other question I have is, you said 145 people, current participants. These are people who are disabled and or out of work, or I guess I want to understand what the current participants means.
Yeah, so 145 is both the community work program track and the disability track. Community work program is at 88 folks right now. I just looked it up today. Okay. So it's a little bit outsized. Usually it's a pretty close balance, but because we don't have our community work program in place, it's not active. We do require people to search for jobs. We require them to submit unemployment. We require them to recertify for unemployment. And honestly, many of the folks that we're working with are waiting for unemployment, then they get it, then they get off GA. So we're definitely seeing a lot of that with the layoffs. So I would say our churn, it's not a static group of people. We have a record number of people coming on and a record number of people coming off, which means we're doing our job, right? Our job is to bridge that gap. Say you're out of work for 3 months. I mean, I don't know about you, but last time I had a staff member call unemployment because our folks don't have access to the internet. Mm-hmm. They stayed on the phone for 8 hours. I had them actually just leave the phone on and see how long it would take to get through to an unemployment worker. And I have people do that every single week so that we can understand, is unemployment working? So if participants come to us and say, I can't get through to unemployment, then we understand that. And we are working with the library so that they can help folks apply online, which is a much more reliable way. But still, we're seeing delays of up to 2 to 3 months for some people to actually get their cards and get money actually on the card. Huge delays for folks.
Is a lot of this because of the pandemic? And I mean, is the issue with them getting like even signed up on unemployment more because of COVID, or is this something that happens regularly?
Oh, it's very different since the pandemic. Unemployment used to be able to walk in the office. There were computer monitors. There were folks who could help you. You would apply, you'd print out your paperwork, come to Township. It was easy. Since then, you know, there was a period of time where the library was closed completely. No one had any way to print out documentation. I had people sending me photos, you know, like screenshots of their unemployment. It was a mess. And it really, the issue is a combination of phone lines being totally overblown, you know, just totally, they're incapable of answering the phone with the number of people they have and the number of folks submitting. Then you got people who are moving around, so it's really hard to send them paperwork. And unemployment will require you to submit additional documentation at times. So you have to have an email address and you have to keep up with it. So it's, you know, we've been navigating this for months now, and the number of people who are being certified as unemployed does not match the number of people who are actually unemployed. It does not match it. Okay. You know, there are political reasons to undercount the unemployment, just putting it out there.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the bills? Is there a motion to approve the bills?
I'll move approval of the bills.
Is that Jared? Okay. Moved by Jared, second?
Julie, second.
Second by Julie. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Ms. Lout,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Colebrook,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
That motion passes. Reports of officers.
I will keep this brief. I think you all have more stamina for late night meetings than I do at this point. In my old age, I'm very tired. We do want to do a brief presentation on the levy, but I do want to let folks know Bucket Brigade is going strong. We're still happy to deliver to folks in need of food. Please refer them. They can simply call our office and we will sign them up. Solidarity Garden CU, I just got word that we had 100 pounds of vegetables from our gardens. You know, we have a collective of about 95 Solidarity Gardens volunteers and several dozen gardens across the community. And so in the last month, we had 100 pounds donated. Some of that goes to our Bucket Brigade to help basically provide fresh food to people's homes. We are positioned, thanks to partnering with the city of Urbana, to submit a grant for emergency solutions COVID response. It would be about $217,000 for our Bridge to Home program. It's a new program we are proposing to do rapid rehousing for literally homeless families and individuals. So we would serve about 15 to 20 households with that for rental assistance up to 2 years, and it would be partial rental assistance based on their need. We're very excited about that. It probably will mean a budget amendment, but that's the best kind of budget amendment you want to have, is one where you have additional significant dollars coming in. So I will keep you posted. I mentioned the stimulus grant assistance with the tents outside of See You at Home and Salt and Light for the next about 2.5 weeks now. I did want to highlight that thanks to our interns from the School of Social Work, we had 3 full-time interns and 2 20-hour-a-week interns from the urban planning, and then 5 other part-time interns this summer. And honestly, that's why we're still standing, is because of our interns. They're great. But we have developed a structured housing advocacy program. So we identify participants with the highest housing needs. We have a housing status tool, which I've linked in case you're curious. We offer assessment using a vulnerability index tool that is nationally used. to prioritize services. It's the same thing that is used by HUD-funded organizations. And then we forward our assessments to centralized intake for the homeless. That had been a traffic jam, and we were really having problems kind of getting folks on the list. So we have solved that problem by doing the assessments ourselves. We then sign eligible households up for statewide referral network units. I've been working with our state representative and IDA to make that process work. It has not worked well. And we're in the process of really fixing it. As a result of our work, we've been able to get several homeless families placed at Bristol Place. So we had 2 homeless families at Bristol Place, and 1 more is in process. There are 14 statewide referral network subsidized units for the homeless and at Bristol Place. So I want to make sure all 15 get used for that. We then offer support to apply for any and all available subsidized housing options. We've created a grid that we've shared with all of our community partners of every single subsidized housing option, how you get into it, the application process, who's excluded, who's not excluded, how many units, what the amenities are, everything. Is there a wait list? And we surveyed by calling all of the places and got accurate information. This list does not exist anywhere else in the community. So we shared it with everyone so that other people can also sign their participants up for subsidized housing. So we then have been supporting people to get their paperwork in, get their birth certificates, to make their appointments. Before COVID, we would drive people, but now we, make sure that they are able to get on MTD and get to their appointments. And then once they are admitted into subsidized housing, we support participants accessing move-in assistance. So we might do rental assistance or work with our PC. We might pay old bills off, utility bills off with our Angel Donor Fund. We reach out to our volunteers in the community and ask for furnishings. So you have literally a homeless family with nothing but the backpack on their back. And so we're able to get beds donated, sheets, the things that people need to actually live humanely in their new space. And then we monitor with our case managers, general assistance case managers. I think this is a really, really important pipeline system for us to move people from homelessness into housing. And so far we've helped, this is just this, we really launched this system July 1st. We've helped 16 people of our most vulnerable participants apply for subsidized housing to 7 housing opportunities. And we had 4 move in. So, it's going to be poco a poco, but we're going to have, several folks each month moving into permanent housing that is subsidized. And that over time is going to be a real game changer for our community. And I just want to thank all our interns. They're listed in the memo, but they've just been wonderful. And we have 10 more interns who start in 2 weeks. Happy to answer any questions. And I'm not sure if Wayne has a report. I can kick it to him.
Mary Alice?
Danielle, I just wanted you to talk a little bit about the $5,000 emergency rental assistance program. People have been concerned about people having enough money to pay their rent and so forth. This seems like a really good program that the state is running, and I know that Jen is the one who sent it out on behalf of your office. So if you could just give the public some background on that.
Sure. Let me. It's going to take me 1 second to find the information that we sent out. Hold on. Let's see.
I can forward it to you if you want me to.
Yeah,
That'd be
it's
easier.
yeah. So basically, it's a short-term emergency rental assistance and mortgage assistance program. There is. I'm just trying to pull up the place where you apply because there's a website. Let's see. Oh goodness. I know that Habitat for Humanity is supporting people. Here we go. So the call center number is 1-888-252-1119. So that's one of the ways that you would access it. And for some reason, I'm not able to, oh, I see. It's www.era.ihda.org. So essentially, you know, and we're going to see what's unfortunate is that it's a new program every month or 2 months with a different website and a different phone number. But there are a number of programs that are rolling out, and this is the latest. This is how people can apply for emergency rental assistance. That's through the Illinois Housing Development Authority. Any other questions folks have for me? Yes, Bill?
Yeah, on the small proportion of stimulus checks received, were those people expecting checks in the mail mostly, or had some of them signed up for electronic deposit through one of the debit card programs, or Square, I think, was one that Champaign County Healthcare Consumers was suggesting?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, is there some common thread to those that haven't received theirs?
Yeah, so people, no one received their checks through online banking system that we surveyed. It was almost all folks who had some level of income last year and had a tax return. So it was automatically deposited, or they received, they were rental assistance participants who were on SSI or SSDI and received. The biggest barrier to people accessing their payments was they didn't submit tax returns and they don't bank. The poor really don't bank. They don't have places where they keep money. One of the things our program is doing, and we're working closely with Heartland Alliance, our funder, they funded us at $10,000 and they provided technical support and training for our staff. And so we're helping people sign up for, we don't push a particular option, but we have several options that people can choose from. That could be a bank that you can walk down the street in Urbana and access, or it could be an online banking option. Most people really like the walk down the street version. These are folks without smartphones. They don't have reliable connections. They don't have internet at the home. They don't bank. So they're not getting their entitlement. Just to be clear, when people do get that entitlement, it does not count against their general assistance. It's considered a one-time payment. So we've made that clear to folks.
Yeah, I think that was my concern about suggesting people use Square, I think it's called, or they need a smartphone. But I know the IRS had a website where people that didn't file a return, didn't need to file a return, could submit a little bit of information to get their stimulus check. But then they would have to have it mailed to them unless they banked.
Correct.
Or I think we talked about getting like a one of those debit card deposit things that some of the stores offer.
Yeah.
So,
there's those three options, basically: a bank, your and a debit card, or you receive the check in the mail. A number of people are choosing checks, and then we're helping them identify a reliable address.
Okay, well that'll work. It'd take time. I guess the debit card, prepaid debit card, would be faster, but it's possible this will happen again. So hopefully we can figure out what works better and get along.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Okay.
Wayne, did you have an officer's report? I didn't know if you.
Assessment notices went out approximately July 24th. New assessments were published July 31st. The deadline to appeal is September 10th. We did get several return to senders. So whenever we get a return to sender, myself, my staff, we try to identify the rightful recipient. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not, but I would encourage everyone to go to our website, www.ctao.us, and check their assessment. And if they feel that it is too high, appeal with the Board of Review by September 10th. Also, I just wanted to let you guys know, if the opportunity arises, there's some grant funding with the Local Cure Act. And if I get a chance to apply, I intend to apply for another aerial flight, if we can get it grant funded. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to unfinished business. I don't think there is any. New business.
Oops, I'm sorry, the cat that just keeps attacking me. I guess, I don't know if you wanted to put a motion on the table first, and then I have a short presentation, and I have a short video testimonial from one person who is not able to come this late, and another person who is part of my presentation as a testimonial, who I've asked Jason to allow to present, Kathleen. So, oh, I see her now. So however you want to do it, Diane.
Let's do the, we usually do the presentations first. So go ahead. And then we'll ask for a motion.
For some reason, I can't hear you.
Oh. We'll do the presentation first and then go.
Still don't have audio.
Can you hear me, Danielle? So I think it's something on her end.
Have we lost all audio? Oh goodness, I can't hear anyone.
We can hear you.
Whoops.
I can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay.
And I just joined, so.
I'm sorry. You know that cat that I mentioned? It walked across my volume control. I apologize.
Okay, you're back. Okay. We'll do the presentations first, and then we'll get a motion on the floor. So go ahead.
Okay, great. I want to introduce Kathleen Sawyer. Thank you, Kathleen, for coming so late in the evening. And then I'd like to play a short video clip by Janelle Pleasure that she submitted that I sent to Jason. And then I have a short slideshow. So I just want to ask Kathleen first to just share her experience with the town board so that you kind of have a human face on what our services look like for the community. Thank you, Kathleen.
Yes, I wasn't sure exactly what Danielle wanted me to share, but I wasn't even using Township Assist itself. I was on SSI. In the past couple of years, I had done my best, though chronically ill, to take care of my mother for years. And once she passed, even though I was paying my half of the rent and the utilities and everything, that was not sustainable in the apartment I was in. And so I needed to find somewhere else. And just being on SSI, it was, you know, I couldn't really find anywhere else. And I don't understand how exactly. I mean, I feel like I'm competent to some things, but doing the Section 8 paperwork, I had never had that experience. I didn't know anybody who'd had that experience. And it was only because I went to Township and got assistance from them and got assistance like, you know, I don't have lots of access to technology at my house or scanners or even a computer and a printer. And so they were instrumental in helping me get all of those things taken care of such that I could move on to the housing authority. And now I have a Section 8 voucher and use it in Urbana. And I'm fortunate that I mean, like I was lucky enough to not even need the down payment, like the, what do you call it? The extra assistance, deposit assistance. So some people are just needing a really small bump of help too. And then there are people at this time, of course, during COVID, I find it frightening that even people that maybe don't care so much about their fellow neighbor, if you care about getting sick, it's outrageous to think people can keep themselves clean and healthy at a time like this without running water, you know, without having access to a place to live. It's hard enough for me being a chronically ill person to do it with a place to live. And those people are out on the streets suffering. When I stayed in a hotel a lot in between my mom passing and getting this place to live. And there are just more people than you know out there that are really trying hard and I mean, they literally are working. Some of them clean my hotel rooms. And they're out there with children and sick parents too. And it's just amazing that there's just no way to really escape this hole they're in. And I mean, I had went to college and I don't even have children and I don't have, you know, any kind of history that makes it hard for me to get a place to rent. I obviously am very white. I have a lot of privileges and I still struggled a great deal because of chronic illnesses. And because I had invested my time in taking care of someone, you know, instead of like, I wasn't in the workforce during that time. I probably couldn't have managed it anyway, but, you know, I was a caregiver and I ended up, you know, with nothing basically. So I just want you to think more about, it's really a crucial time that would give more money to Township, because it's such an effective program besides being the compassionate thing to do. It's really the most practical, seems like the wisest financially of what to do given our current state of affairs. And Danielle's fostering that cat, I think, so we forgive you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Jason, would you mind pulling up the video of Janelle that I sent you in the photos? The Google Space. If not, I can also share, I can try to share my screen.
I'm working on it now.
Okay, yeah, I'm just not as sure of making the audio sound clear if I share my screen, so. Yeah, Janelle had requested that I share this video. She's not available to be with us tonight.
Hello, my name is Janelle Davenport Pleasure, and I would like to speak on the impact that the Cunningham Township has had on myself and my family. To give you a little bit of background, about 2 years ago I suffered a stroke, and it didn't lay me out all the way, but it definitely made life very difficult for myself and my family. And in that same time frame, I was going through a divorce, and I'm still going through it. Emotionally, physically, mentally, I was strapped. I didn't have anything left. I didn't want to be here anymore. I tried to look for resources on my own with the limited ability that I had, and every door was pretty much either shut in my face or I was treated so rudely and made to feel like a dog in the street. It wasn't until I was introduced to Danielle and the Cunningham Township that my world literally went from desperate and despair and lonely and broken to taking part in healing, manifesting great things, and peace for myself and for my children. The Cunningham Township came in, and not only did they help my family and I secure a home, but they helped us with food, supplies and things that my children needed for school. And the most important thing they provided for me and my family was the emotional support. Everyone in that office, there was never a person that wasn't smiling, never a person that wasn't willing to just reach out, give you a hug if you needed it, to let you know they were there for you and on your side. There aren't many places in this town that offer that kind of love, that kind of friendship, that kinship that people need. And I was blown away, and I'm still blown away by their generosity, by their kind-heartedness, by their diligence in making sure that, you know, people not only get secure homes, secure food, resources for jobs. They make sure that not only is the physical person taken care of, but their mental state is taken care of as well. And that is so important in this day and time, because so many people need more of that. They need the mental health. They need to know that they're okay. They need to know that they're safe and that others are there to support them and uplift them. And had it not been for the Cunningham Township, I honestly don't think I would be where I am right now, which is in a home and stable, secure, mentally and emotionally, just feeling great and on top of the world. And I love them to death, and they are a great resource and an asset to our community. Hello.
Great. I just wanted the public as well as the town board. I know we look at a lot of charts and graphs, and we have to look at budgets, and we have to make hard decisions. And I guess I just wanted you to hear from two folks who really were struggling with pretty significant issues of housing insecurity and homelessness. And our approach is to support people with love and dignity. That's oftentimes seems anathema to the concept of public aid, but it's really important to our office that we hold people and that we support them and their agency, and we help to promote and empower. And that's why we do everything that we do. We really look at the whole person. So I just wanted to share that philosophy as we go into the, you know, kind of the charts and numbers and graphs. If Jason, you wouldn't mind going ahead and pulling up the referendum presentation. I will be as brief as possible. I know it's very late. I want to really thank the town board for your long-term support. I have been in this position for 3 years, and together with your support, we've been able to accomplish so much. So I want to just talk a little bit about the resolution that's before you tonight.
I have a quick introduction, Danielle, because Janelle did not brag on this, but I would like to bring up sort of a practical matter. Janelle has taken training this year, some very intense training, become like get certified in some IT thing that I don't understand, but she will have a much better job, and she will definitely not be needing assistance of sorts, and she will be, you know, paying in those taxes. So I just on a practical level want people to realize when you support someone like you guys did her, you know, you get these great rewards, not only from human beings, but you get financial rewards too, because now she's stable and in the process of paying for a house and has this much better financial situation where she's going to be contributing to our local economy more. So I just thought it was a good point to remember.
She graduated in the midst of all that. Yes, it's incredible. Both Kathleen and Janelle are part of our cohort of formerly homeless residents who've been helping to support other residents going through the same thing. Thank you, Kathleen. If you could just pull up the presentation. So Cunningham Township is a public office. We support Urbana residents facing poverty, disability, housing, and food insecurity. If you go to the next slide, our programs are general assistance, that's monthly support for Urbana residents who are disabled or out of work. Rental assistance, which is one-time assistance to prevent eviction and homelessness. We do social service grants with the city of Urbana, funding agencies to fill gaps Township either lacks capacity or expertise to fill. So we really think of those grants as extending our services in areas that we can't extend ourselves. We do housing advocacy, and I discussed that a bit during my officer report. We help rent-burdened residents navigate housing options and apply for subsidies. And we really start with the folks who are most homeless. So both Kathleen and Janelle really went through the kind of pilot of that housing advocacy that we stitched together and helped to build a structure that would be efficient and effective for many more people. I also just want to say that we've had a number of COVID-related programs. They're all privately funded. Bucket Brigade, where we do stay-at-home and safety provisions for very low-income residents. That's throughout Champaign and Urbana. Solidarity Garden CU, which is a collaboration to support neighbors feeding neighbors fresh vegetables. We have a COVID rental. We had a COVID rental assistance program. That's a program in partnership with United Way, and it supports residents out of work and behind on rent due to COVID-19. Next slide, please. Last year, I just want to talk in terms of impacts. What taxpayers supported was that we had 296 Urbana households who received general assistance. That's unique residents. That included 133 homeless residents and 170 disabled residents. We also supported 119 households receiving rental assistance. That's one time every 2 years at most assistance to prevent eviction and homelessness. And we supported 14 agencies with social service grants. That included Crisis Nursery, Healthcare Consumers, Rape Crisis Services, and the Refugee Center. And when we totaled our 2019 numbers, over 1,000 Urbana residents, that's 1 in 40 Urbana residents, were served last year. Next slide, please. So in addition, we had private donors step up and support as I said, our bucket brigade, we also do, and it's an amazing, over 1,000 people supported since March 18th, including 364 children. And that's in partnership with Channing Murray that does the deliveries, Sola Gracia that grows much of the food that we use, and St. Vincent de Paul Food Pantry has provided all the food pantry items that we use for the last 3 months or so. We also do emergency support with our Angel Donor Fund. That's our private donations. That provides emergency housing, food. We pay off utility payments when LIHEAP is not available for township participants. And then we do our solidarity gardens. And we raised $50,000 in private donations to date. It's just been an overwhelming amount of support. And we get donations. We've gotten donations as small as $6. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we're currently facing, and you as town board members are very aware of this since you approved these budgets, we've had 4 years of deficit spending in our assistance fund. So we really have generally stayed whole in the town fund. We do know that we're investing in the assessor's side during the quad year, and that we'll see a decrease in 1 full-time equivalent next year in that. But other than that, it's really been in the assistance fund. And I want to just give a perspective on that history and where it came from. So the town board reduced the township levy in 2015, and they did it by almost $200,000. But then the levy remained flat, and I'll show you a graph in a second, rather than increasing with the consumer price index or 5%. So we're allowed to do 5% or CPI, whichever is less, for 3 years. So we had a flat levy as our demand went up. So we had our rental assistance program. My predecessor actually started the program. You authorized $50,000 for her to spend, and she spent $900. And then there were a year where she spent $0. So I revived and retooled that program when I came in, because the number one call to 211, the number one call to township is for rental assistance. So I felt like I inherited in May of 2017, I inherited like a screwdriver and everyone was calling, asking for a hammer. So it was very important that we develop that rental assistance program. And if you dig into the numbers, you can see the reason why that demand is so high throughout the community is in 66% of Urbana renters are rent burdened. That means they're paying more than 1/3 of their income on rent. And these residents struggle to save for emergencies. So you have one medical emergency, a funeral, a car, engine blows up and you can't get to work, a high-risk pregnancy. These are all things that people, they have a gap in their income and they get behind. So that rental assistance program has been really essential for our community and for landlords and for economic stabilization, which I will get to. In addition, we've seen general assistant client levels increase in the past 3 years. And they returned, as I had mentioned before, when I came in, there were 26 clients on the rolls. We haven't had client rolls that low since the 70s, right? But when my predecessor came in, she had 175 general assistance clients. We now have 155. So but what we saw was essentially, I basically worked with residents who qualified to make sure that they were able to access this entitlement, which we are state mandated to provide. And in doing so, I returned the levy levels to the historic levels. Now we have seen some rise under COVID. And we're doing everything we can to manage that while providing that entitlement for folks. And as I mentioned, a lot of it is just 2 and 3 months payments until people are able to get back on their feet. Now we face an unprecedented economic recession, and it will only compound this. Next slide, please. I want to just show you some graphs so that you can understand what the levy looks like. So you can see in 2016 where it was at, and how it was bumped down significantly and stayed flat for 3 years. And then last year is really the first time we saw an increase, the fiscal year 2020 budget. So you can see the total township levy, and I just want to point out that's the assessor, the supervisor, and general assistance. it's roughly a third, but it's not exact in that way. But you can see the total assistance provided, very small dollar amounts in 2016, predating me 2017, and then I came in May of 2017. So fiscal year 2018 and 19 and 20 is what you see. Next, if we can look at the next slide, the next slide will show you assistance levels. So what I tried to do in this slide so that you understand total dollars, blue is general assistance. Those are people who are temporarily out of work or disabled, waiting disability payments. Red is medical, which was provided significantly before the Affordable Care Act. So this also shows what, you know, good national policy can do. Because we have seen basically the complete elimination of medical payments from Township. And that also has to do with the free clinics and support in the community. And then you see the addition of rent assistance. There is a tiny, tiny little yellow in fiscal year 15, but it's so small you can't see it, but it's there. So what you see is the total assistance dollars. Again, we're still not to where we were. We're above where we were in 2002, 2003. That was the last time we had a major recession. Excuse me, we had a recession with the .com, so you'll see that in 2001, 2002, 3, and then we see another recession in 08, 09, and you can see the rising results of that. Then you see the cutting down, and that's primarily administrative and procedural over those 4 years, and then you see the restoration with the addition of rental assistance. Next slide, please. And so this, you've seen this before, it's in your budget document. I just want to show going way back to 90, this is mean, the mean number of cases in a year. So it's not a month by month tracing, but it's the mean number. And you can look at 1975, right? And then you can go to 2000. And this is pretty up to date. It's going into 2001. So this includes this last year, fiscal year that we just completed. And this is number of people, number of households. It's not number of dollars. Go ahead and to the next slide. So what we basically know is that 66.4% of Urbana renters were rent burdened pre-COVID. You can see that Champaign suffers from a similar number. The national rent burden is about 50%. Next slide, please. So the rental assistance program, last year we prevented homelessness for 119 families. We made $56,000 in payments to landlords. That should have an S on it. And essentially what is not quantified, but we have an estimate, is that every single time a landlord court order evicts a tenant, they are paying, it's usually the landlord because the tenant doesn't have any money, right? They don't have money to pay off this bill. The landlord will pay $1,000 to $1,500 to remove that family. So one of the things I think is important from a rental assistance program perspective is to look at the overall dollars of savings, because landlords will be looking at increases, as will homeowners, and rent, in their property taxes, if this referendum is passed. So looking at we have to look at what is the cost benefit analysis and what do people get out of the program. Since the program started in January of 2018, we've supported 223 families. Next slide, please. So basically, we've got several options before us, and I put this in the town board memo. We've been deficit spending. We can, going into, we could deficit spend for another year. After that, we'd have to start cutting, we'd have to cut programs. I would recommend, if the referendum does not pass, that we begin cutting programs next year rather than kind of falling off a cliff. So I would suggest, if we were to cut programs, I think we'd need to start with the grants to social service agencies. These are the ones that extend township services in areas we lack capacity or expertise. We do a number of grants to immigrant support groups, and actually those groups will oftentimes pay off housing bills that don't end up coming to us. We have get a lot of support on healthcare navigation and food stamp and TANF navigation from healthcare consumers. And then youth programming through UNCC, Boys and Girls Club and others, rape crisis, senior services, and that savings, depending on how much we look to cut, is $50,000 to $175,000. We could then, we would look next on the chopping block would be shrinking or eliminating the rental assistance program. That's the program that pays off back rent for those facing eviction, and it helps homeless residents pay deposit and first month rent. Just to remind folks that when the Housing Authority or HUD subsidizes somebody's apartment, they do not subsidize the deposit. So you can have a homeless individual who has a subsidized apartment to move into that they cannot move into because they cannot afford the $600 to $800 deposit that they need. So this is like very good money, in my opinion, because it means that people can then be in that housing long term. And then we would look at general assistance program changes. Now it's a state mandated program. I don't see a lot of area to cut, but we could control costs by keeping payments at $300 instead of rising with inflation. Back in the day, general assistance could pay your rent. It doesn't anymore. I would like to keep those payments up with inflation, but that would be one of the areas. And then we could also impose more rigorous requirements, especially around community work program. I think our requirements are really fair. We require 24 hours of community service and people to submit proof that they are seeking a job. We also provide support for people who are in school or training, and we provide hours towards that. So if they choose to go back to school, they will get those hours counted. So there's additional savings. So basically, if you count up the dollars here, if we eliminate social services, rental assistance, and do some trimming to general assistance, we could bring it back under. Our township would look like a very different township under that scenario. Next slide, please. In the second option is we would, and this, I want to put these two together because ultimately our goal, and we've done a lot together in this way, is to eliminate homelessness in Urbana. I think it's very doable. I think we are on our way. And the only way that we will do that is to both raise the levy to restore it to what it was, plus providing some additional support. So as I'll show you in a future graph, we're looking at a 5% annual increase since 2016. So, very reasonable raise in levy. And then we want to supplement that with state and federal grants. So we, as I had mentioned, are applying for the ESG state grants. It will be the first time, and I confirmed this with both supervisors going back to the 60s. I actually spoke with both of them this week. Prior to my predecessor, Ken Ziegler and Carol Elliott were longtime supervisors, and I spoke with both of them. And they indicated they had not procured grants in the past. They thought it was a great idea, and this is one of the ways in which we could make sure that we're using all available dollars on the table for our community and leverage what we have with the grants management support with the federal and state dollars. Our goal is to really build a robust rapid rehousing program that would basically help to house the literally homeless, and then do the housing advocacy so that based on vulnerability, we would continue to help people navigate pretty difficult and lengthy processes of getting into affordable housing. And then we would like to, with grants, develop a program to address the urgent unmet need to support homeless families with children in Urbana schools. There's much I could say about this, but the one thing I will say, because I have spoken to you many times on this, is if you are a social worker at, let's say, Wiley Elementary School, and you have a 6-year-old who you find out is basically staying in a motel with the last bit of money they have, and they have no They don't know where they're gonna stay next. And this 6-year-old tells you that this is happening, and I am giving you a true story. That social worker has no place to go with that family. There's no option. I get calls all the time from the schools. And imagine being a social worker in that situation. It's just unconscionable. I don't think we can put people through this. We need to address the fact that we have no same-day emergency shelter for women with children. And I would like to develop something specifically for children in Urbana schools so we can confirm residency working with the school district. So this is a big, next 4 years goal that we want to establish. I think that we will see long-term public health and social health benefits of providing housing stabilization for families that are in vulnerable situations. Next slide, please. Okay, so voters can choose, if you so vote this evening, they would be able to choose on November 3rd, and they would vote on an anti-poverty referendum for Urbana only. So I have showed you the ballot referendum language. Shall the limiting rate under the property tax extension limitation law for Cunningham Township within Champaign County, Illinois, be increased by an additional amount equal to 0.0959% above the limiting rate for the purpose of providing assistance for low-income households in Urbana, including, but not limited to, rental assistance, job transportation, and other life-saving assistance for those in need. This would be for levy year 2019. It would be realized in 2000, I believe it's 2021 is when we would see the dollars coming in. And this would be equal to 0.3015% of the equalized assessed value of taxable property for the 3 levy years listed. It's a simple yes or no. Next slide, please. And I just have 3 more slides I want to show you. So the levy increase.
Danielle, yes. I'm going to have to interrupt in order to extend the meeting.
Oh, okay.
We're coming up on 10:30. So I'd like a motion to extend the meeting to 11 o'clock.
I'll make a motion that we extend the meeting to 11 o'clock.
I'll second.
Seconded by, Mary Alice moved, seconded by Sharice. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Why do we have to extend?
Because otherwise we need to end at 10:30, which is 5 minutes from now.
Yeah, we really need to not. We have a Monday deadline.
This will give us an extra half an hour.
Okay. Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Ms. Lout,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Colebrook,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
That motion passes. Okay.
Thank you. I will close with just these 3 thoughts. So the levy increase for assistance would basically be, our current levy is 1.227 and we would be at 1.799. The intention is that 100% of this increase would be for laid off workers, disabled residents, families facing eviction, and homeless residents to be housed and safe. So our paper clips, our staff, our utilities, we have that taken care of in the town fund. This would really be for assistance. The cost per month on a single family home worth $100,000 is $3 a month or $36 a year. And I've given the median value of a residential parcel in the township, which is close to that, just for your comparison. Next slide. So I thought this would be helpful to see what we're looking at in terms of an increase. As you can see, again, it was up, it stayed flat. There have been 2 modest bumps in the last 2 years. And then essentially we have, this would be the levy increase proposed. And this gray line represents a 5% annual increase simulated from that time. Next slide, please. So I just want to share with you some comparisons to sister townships. These are townships with similar programs to our township. So Cunningham Township's proposed rate is 0.3015%. And that Waukegan, which is a very similar township, I've gotten to know the supervisor there, very similar philosophy. They do a lot of work with the poor, and they are at 0.3505%. They have a population double ours. Their budget is 3.3 million, where 1.1 million is for senior services. The Oak Park Township's rate in Oak Park is very similar to Urbana in many ways. In fact, the Oak Park Township really led the vision to end homelessness in Oak Park. They have a strategic plan. I've been passing it around and sharing it with folks and really using it as a model for our community. They have a rate of 0.31%. 0.09% of that goes to mental health. We do mental health funding and housing funding through our social service program. And then Normal Township does have a lower rate because of their property values, but I wanted to show that their population is somewhat comparable, and their budget is, if basically our budget per capita and their budget per capita is very close after this raise. So I did want to really look at, I wanted to do the reasonableness test. I wanted to do the supportable test. And we feel like, this passes both tests. I just want to end with, basically saying that I think that Urbana residents are very generous and have time and again told us they want to support their neighbors in need. In fact, I will oftentimes post to the township Facebook for a need, and I will say the average amount of time it takes to get a response is about 10 minutes. It's amazing how much Urbana values their township. And they see that we work hard. We see that we're careful with their dollars. We leverage it with private dollars, and now we're leveraging it with state dollars. So with our hundreds of residents who volunteer and intern each year, with a very strong call from Urbana residents for more social service support, I think that this is a great way for Urbana to vote their conscience and say, we would, in this time of need, we would like to support our neighbors, and we will pay, essentially a family night out of dinner. If you're a poor family, it's a McDonald's, and if you're a wealthy family, it's Silver Creek, but it's still about a night out for dinner that year. And if Urbana voters choose not to, then, we will take the next step. But I just want to say thank you for your confidence in Township, and I'm really excited to see what we can accomplish the next 4 years.
Okay, let's now get a motion on the floor.
I move to accept resolution number T 2020-08009R.
I'll second.
Moved by Julie, seconded by Jared. Town board discussion. Bill.
I had a technical question, I guess, on the way the $36 was calculated. Maybe Wayne, you could take a look. The additional amount was 0.0959. I come out with like $31, $32, something like that on a $100,000 house. So
yeah, so the resolution allows for the limiting rate to be increased for the years 2021, 2022, and 2023, or is it 2020, 2021, 2022? Which one is it?
It says 2021 and 22.
It's 20, 21, and 22, right? So that's 3 years where the limiting rate will be increased, right? So what that assumes is the levy stays flat for those 3 years, and then the limiting rate is increased. And what will happen is the first year it'll be, you're right, 31, and then the second and the third year it'll go up, so it averages out over the 3 years to 36, and it's actually 35.70 something. I just rounded it up to 36.
and that's
So it's like a worst case scenario if we did, if we did not do any increases to the levy whatsoever for the next 3 years, versus if we did do the increase to the new limiting rate over the next 3 years. It also assumes no growth in property values also.
And no exemptions.
And no exemptions, yes. That's also important. It assumes no exemptions.
And so is this prescribed by state law, how you have to say,
Yes.
how you have to calculate that?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, there's another thing I wanted to add, but I'm still doing the math. So if you,
Can I just add to that? If you pull your property tax bills from the last 3 years, you'll actually see the dollar figures. It won't be this case with every person in every situation, but typically you actually saw your township bill go down. So it's important to note that, you know, there's basically been years of people paying less. And this is then, as Wayne said, a kind of worst case scenario in terms of what folks would be paying. If this would be before your exemptions, and it would assume a no growth. Other questions?
Mary Alice?
So after the 3 years, then it would go back to the cap in terms of without another referendum. Is that correct?
yes.
But capped at the newer rate. So it doesn't lower, but yes, we would be under tax caps at that point.
Also,
I just want to be clear. It's not clear that we'll need to, you know, to make use of those 3 years. We could do graduated, so we could actually step up over time. And those 3 years gives us a chance to graduate up. That's why we chose 3 years. You know, it's a limiting rate at the top, but then we would basically be stuck under tax caps, looking back at the last 3 years, the highest of the last 3 years.
So yeah, I just wanted to add, what the referendum does is give the town board the option to levy up to the higher rate. You don't have to if it's approved.
Right. I just wanted to clarify what would happen at the end of the 3 years. That people were clear. Do you happen to have the Champaign Township rate and how we compare to them? How this would compare to that?
It's not a comparison that I find useful, and I could give a long history to that, but I'm sure Wayne could pull it. I mean, the city of Champaign Township was sued by Land of Lincoln along with most of the townships in the area except Cunningham Township, because their town board levied $0, which is not allowable under state law. So they began to levy, based on a lawsuit, began to levy for their township, but we're stuck under tax caps at that point. So in 2000 well, I believe it was 6, because I worked on the campaign, there was a referendum put out to increase their township levy, and it failed. So you know, the city of Champaign Township, if you look at any other township with any kind of robust program, you don't see the kind of levy that the city of Champaign Township has, because they have this history of essentially illegally reducing their levy to nothing and then essentially being stuck under tax caps. And they're going to have to address that issue at some point. And I did speak with Andy about doing a referendum at this time, and there was some interest. And then, you know, I mean, they have to make their own choices. But they really are not going to be able to serve. They don't have any they do not serve people who are unemployed. They only serve people who are disabled with active SSI and SSDI cases. And they're receiving, you know, they do some funding for rental assistance. It's modest. And then they do, they are getting some state funds so that they can do additional rental assistance support. But I would have to pull I don't have the rate in front of me.
Well, we oftentimes, when we're talking property tax, look at Champaign, so I just wanted to know what
Absolutely. Yeah, understood. And
so, and Wayne, maybe you can answer this question. What is the mean and the median home value for Urbana right now?
The median home value is listed on the slide, and it is, what did I put? 123, I want to say. Where did I put that? It's 123,927. So about 124,000 is the median value of residential.
So people would be looking, the median household would be looking at about a $42 increase, roughly speaking.
at the top of the limit.
At the top of the limit?
I like this, Mary Alice. She's sharp.
No, that's not true, because that assumes no property growth, right? So as property growth, if there's more property growth, that number goes down.
Mhm.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying, because we cap it at a certain amount, we say we're going to levy to X dollars.
Right. So
Yeah.
for example, if certain things go well in the legal system and we all of a sudden get another $200 million of assessed value, that number is going to be a lot lower for people.
Given the current circumstances, or given the current situation that we're under, I'm just trying to, I think that if we're going to talk to the public in terms of what we're asking them to do, I think it's just good to give them an exact, as close to an exact number as we can. I mean, it was nice that you provided the $36 for a house that's assessed at $100,000, but I didn't know what proportion of the population actually live in a house that's $100,000.
Right, and the $100,000 number is prescribed by law. Also, thanks to policies promoted by the Urbana City Council and the mayor, property growth has been about 5% a year. And by property growth, I mean assessed value, new property specifically. So.
Right. And then I know that you provided a really nice chart in our packet in terms of what the levy would be at a 5% annual increase from 2016 all the way to 2021. And it kind of shows, I don't know if the public probably doesn't have this, but basically we have an assessed value of $1.2 million at the moment. It's budgeted. If we had maintained the levy and increased it according to what we're allowed, it would be 1.6 instead. So really the change that we're asking for is about only $50,000 more, if I look at it correctly. Is that a correct interpretation, Danielle?
Yeah, so if we had been able to levy starting in 2016, which was the first, it's right after that it dropped. If we had just levied 5% annual increase, we'd be almost exactly where we will be if we pass this referendum. So this is the tricky part, is that we really should, be cautious when we reduce the levy. There are times to do that, and I think, I don't disagree. I just think you have to look at longer term historical data before making that decision, and then making sure that we're capturing, CPI or 5% each year. Otherwise, you get stuck under this situation where we've basically been level for a long time. So yes, this represents not only what we need, because you could look at our deficit spending with some wiggle room, so that we can do some growth of programs and leveraging with state and federal dollars. And it also represents that 5% annual increase.
Okay, all right, those are my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, I wanted to add, and this was my mistake because I gave this information to Danielle. The town of Normal, their most recent budget was 2.9 million, not 2.2.
Whoops.
That was my fault.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Comments?
You need this. That's a comment.
Thank you, Cherise.
Well, I mean, I have a friend that lives in Rockford that has been instrumental in eliminating homelessness in Rockford, and I think basically this is kind of the route they had to take. It started off with making sure all vets had they did the different populations within the homeless, and I think slowly but surely they've also managed to eliminate homelessness in Rockford. Of course, I have to give them a call and find out how they did that, but that was a program that he was instrumental in. So you can't, what is it? You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. And right now we're very behind in I think financially being able to support, you know, there have been so many things. Danielle, you brought up the 2 recessions that have happened, great recessions actually, that have happened within just this century that we've moved in. And yet the monies, no one has taken into consideration the effect that it has on what I would call now the essential workers in our communities. And that is a sad state of affairs, and it is unfortunate. And I'm hoping that, yeah, maybe this, I'm for a referendum, especially for such a small amount, in not being the homeowner of the home that I live in, but being the power of attorney of the homeowner of where I live. I really don't think my mother would have a problem with $36 a year, you know, being raised on her taxes.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Julie, did you raise your, no, scratching, okay. Dennis?
I just want to add that $36 number assumes that there is no new construction in Urbana. It probably won't be that high.
Okay, and
that is a very good point. Another way to increase revenue for the very essential programs and services is through planned sustainable growth in our tax base, and that's what we've been what you've all helped jumpstart in the last 3 years. So it makes a huge difference. Go ahead.
I'll take something. I do think that the township has been very thoughtful in trying to designate funds to help the programs, sustainability and homelessness, rental assistance. I have friends who rely upon those kinds of funds to put their lives together from week to week and day to day. I think that it's a good, clean, and thoughtful offer to place before the voting public, and I think that people in Champaign County, and especially in our township, Cunningham Township, will see that and hopefully they'll support it. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Jared, you had a comment?
I just wanted to say that I'm very supportive of the referendum, and I hope that it passes.
Okay. Anyone else? We have 15 minutes before our self-imposed deadline. Okay, are we ready to vote? All right. This was moved by Julie Lout, seconded by Jared Miller. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Ms. Loud,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Colebrook,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
That motion passes. Next up is Resolution T 2020-08-010R.
First off, I just want to say thank you so much for a unanimous vote in support of giving voters a chance to decide. I just really appreciate your words and your support, and I really look forward to, I think we can do this. Thank you. And Charisse, please connect me to your friend at Rockford, please. I need to talk to her or him. Okay, next I know we have 10 minutes. This is a resolution authorizing me to sign agreements with social service providers. We are in the middle of our social service grants. You might recall we chose some months back. You authorized me to move forward with healthcare. You discussed but did not authorize me to move forward with healthcare consumers at $20,000, Solar Grasha Farms at $6,500, and Wesley Food Pantry at $10,000. And so I'm bringing the contracts back. I'm actually meeting with city staff members next week to talk about the next round with Mary Alice, and we will be bringing other recommendations. No, you're not joining us.
No, it's tomorrow.
Oh, God. Okay, yes. We'll be meeting tomorrow to talk about recommended funding for the next kind of round. So we wanted to move these contracts because they are food and healthcare related, and they're not the last that you will see. Happy to answer any questions.
Mary Alice.
I'd like to make a motion if that's okay.
That would be wonderful.
All right, I move resolution number T 2020-8010R be approved.
I'd like to second that one.
Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Dennis. Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Ms. Lout,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Colebrook,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
That motion passes. And with no further business before the town board, this meeting is adjourned.